Hey folks, welcome to our blending lesson for today. So this week we're working in Unit 4, Week 3, where we are learning about those variant spellings, those vowel teams for the long O sound. So we know that long O says O, it just says its name. And we already learned that O blank E can say the long O sound where E is silent. It just tells that O to stop saying ah and start saying O. So now we have 4 new spellings on how to spell the long O sound. So one of those is O by itself. O-A, O-W, and blank O-E. So that blank, all it means is that there's going to be a sound or a letter before it. Same with O blank E. There's going to be a sound or a letter between those two letters. All right, so let's get started with our high frequency words. As always, make sure you're focused and paying attention to really help yourself with all that. 8, animal, about, carry, hour, give, small, other, or, because, into, blue, warm, more, find, over, start, food, flu, laugh, no, listen, were, caught, write, you're going to write on your paper, hard, found, wood, near, woman. Wonderful, thank you. Okay, so let's get started. First word, hello, your turn. Ha, ol, o, hello. So this word hello, you've seen it a ton of times. You probably even know what the word is if you were to see it in a book. But the word hello is just an example of the long O sound at the end just being spelled with O by itself. So, H says ha, short E. In the word hello, you hear eh. You do not hear E. Ha, eh. And remember, you just double up on that sound, ol. And then in the word hello, that O by itself says the long O sound. Ha, lo, hello. So if you didn't know what this word was automatically if you're reading it in a book, you could try it with a long E. Because last week we learned that E by itself can also say the long sound. Ha, e, ol, o. Hello? That doesn't quite sound right. All right, next word. Hotel. Your turn. Ha, o, ta, ol. Hotel. Hotel. So this word hotel is another example of O by itself saying that long O sound. So H says ha, o, o. T says ta. E says eh. L says ol, ha, o, t, l, hotel. So in this word, even though it's an O blank E, if it's going to be an O blank E saying the long O sound, the E would be absolutely silent. In this word hotel, the O by itself is what says the long sound, and the E says its regular sound. It says eh, ha, o, t, ol, hotel. You hear the short E. All right, so next word, motel. Your turn. O, t, ol, motel, motel. M says This is another word where O by itself just says O. O. T says ta. Moat, moat. E says eh, just like in hotel, motel. That E makes a sound. It says it's short sound. L says ol, moat, l, motel. And so a hotel and a motel are similar. It might be a place that you stay if you're on vacation. Next word, doe. Your turn. O, doe. So this word, doe, is like a female deer. And that word, duh, D says duh, and O-E is what's going to make that long O sound. And like I said, those two are a team. They work together to say that long O sound. And this is one where it's O-E, so that means there has to be a letter or a sound before it. So in this word dough, that says O, this says duh, it's just like blank O-E. And like I said before, with those vowel teams, they won't ever say their short sounds. So if you saw an O-E word, it will never ever say ah, eh, or O-E. It would say, those two letters are together, it'll say O. And that's a clue, is that those two together will never ever ever say their separate vowel sounds. All right, let's read our first line. Hello, hotel, motel, dough. Your turn. Wonderful, thank you. All right, next word. Locate. Your turn. L, O, K, A, T. Locate. Locate. This is kind of a longer one. L says ul. In this word, locate, it's an example of O by itself, saying that long O sound. Ul, O. C says ka. And in this word locate, I also hear a long A. And in this word, it is the A blank E, where that E is silent. It's only there to tell the A to say A and not A. So ul, O, K, A, and that blank is T, the T sound. Ul, O, K, ate, locate, locate. Next word, secret. Your turn. S, E, cur, E, T, secret, secret. S says S. And the word secret, E, is the long E sound. When you say secret, you hear E in the middle, the long E. And this is just E by itself that is saying that sound. S, E. And then I see CR in the word as I'm trying to sound it out. S-E, cur, cur. And then the second part, the second E that you hear in there is a short sound. S-E, cur, e. And T says ta. S-E, cur, e, t, secret. Okay. And of course, since we have an E, which in this word it says long E, but then the other E in the word says short E, you can, of course, flip it around, play with it to see what sounds right, what matches the picture. Next word. Toad. Your turn. Ta, o, da. Toad. Toad. T says ta. O, A. Vowel team working together to say that long O sound. Ta, O. And D says da. Ta, o, da. Toad. Next word. Crow. Your turn. Cur, O. Crow. Crow. See R. One of those blends at the beginning. Ka, cur. And the long O sound that you hear at the end of the word crow is spelled with the team O-W. Cur-O. Crow. All right, let's read our second line. Locate, secret, toad, crow. Your turn. Wonderful. All right, next word. Sock. Your turn. S-aw. Sock. So when I say sock, I only hear short O. I just hear ah. I don't hear the letter O. S says S. O says ah. And we know that CK, they work together like buddies to say ka. Sock. Sock. Now what I'm going to do flip out 2 letters and make a completely different word. Only the letters though, I'm not going to flip out the sound. I'm just going to flip out 2 different letters, and it's going to change the sound, it's going to change the meaning. So the word is soak. Your turn. S-O-K. Soak. Soak. So if you were to sound this out with, O by itself, saying that long sound, you would hear the word soak. 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 But the word soak, like if you're going to soak your dishes or soak your clothes, is actually with an O-A. They are a vowel team that's working together to say the long O sound. So we're taking sock and turning it into soak. I'm adding an I'm adding an A next to that O. And then the letter that's getting booted is the C. So then it's just S-O-A-K. Soak. Soak. So all I did was add a letter, subtract a letter. Some letter math there. Next word. Build. Your turn. Old. Build. Build. And we haven't done a ton of work with these sounds, but B says ba. Notice how when I say build, you don't hear long U, you don't hear U, you don't hear long O, you don't hear any long sounds. So that means all the vowels in here are going to be saying their short sound. Ba, I. So ba, I. So these two are kind of working together to say that. Ba, I. Or the BU, ba. And then we'll learn next week that I can say, I by itself can also say I, similar to the way O could, or A, or E. So ba, I. And LD, old. Ba, I, old. Build, build. Next word, blow. Your turn. Bull, O. Blow. Forgot to put the 2 together. So BL. You could say those sounds, those 2 letter sounds separately, like I did on accident. Bull, bowl. But it's a lot easier if you can see them together as one sound, where you chunk them. Bowl. And OW is a team that's working together to say long O. Bull, O. Blow. All right, let's read our last line. Sock, soak, build, blow. Your turn. Lovely. All right, let's do a sentence. I'm going to put this up here. And Jay says ja. So we know it's the beginning of a sentence, so it's capitalized. O-A. They're going to be a vowel team working together to say long O. So like I said, a vowel team will never, ever say their own separate sounds. It will never be ja-o-a, ja-o-a. That's if they both had the long sound. Or it will never be ah-ah, ja-ah-ah. You won't see that as a sound in any word. Ja-o, you just have to know that, those 2 together will always say the long O sound. Ja-o, Joan. Joan. M says And there's a blank E, which is going to make that long A sound. A. D says da. A, da. Made. Joan made the word A. R says And here's O-A. Vowel team working together to say long O. And then S-T, sta, oast, roast. Joan made a roast. word and. Joan made a roast and a FR, one of those beginning blends. Fur, fur. E. So we know that E by itself can say the long sound. In this word, this E is going to say the short sound. Fur, Remember, SH is a digraph that says sh. It will never say ha. It will never say saha. It will never be saha. It will not. You just have to know that SH, sh, those are digraphs. You cannot sound them out letter by letter. So fresh. Joan made a roast and a fresh. L says old. And OA. Another vowel team working together to say long O, ol O. F says ol O, loaf. Joan made a roast and a fresh loaf, high frequency word, of BR, burr, butter. And EA. Remember, we almost forgot that EA can also say eh. Burr, eh. We don't see it a ton in what we've been working on. D says da. Burr, eh, da. Bread. All right, so let's read our sentence. Joan made a roast and a fresh loaf of bread. Your turn. Wonderful. Okay, so we'll need some punctuation. So this, I think it'll just have a period. It's just telling what someone is doing. Joan, she's a person. That means she's a noun. It just tells what she's doing. So, yeah, nouns and verbs. We just said that Joan is a noun because she's a person. And roast. A roast is like a big hunk of meat that you bake in the oven, and it's super duper tasty. So roast is a thing. Loaf is also a noun because a loaf of bread, it's something that you can touch. So that means that bread is also a noun. So we have a whole bunch of nouns in our sentence. Verbs. So we only have one verb, and that's what Joan is doing. So Joan made something. So that's what she is doing. She made something. Joan made a roast and a fresh loaf of bread. So we also have an adjective. We have an adjective in our sentence. So maybe you remember, an adjective is a describing word. It describes a noun. It modifies a noun, is what it's called. And so the word fresh. The word fresh is describing the word loaf. It is telling about the loaf of bread. So you could say, this sentence would still be perfectly true if you said, Joan made a roast and a loaf of bread. That is still an absolutely true and correct sentence. But adding the word fresh kind of gives it a little bit more detail. It gives it more oomph. It is telling about the loaf of bread. So if you were to have a loaf of bread and it was fresh out of the oven, I bet it would be super duper tasty. So that kind of helps you know more about the loaf of bread. All right. So thank you so much for your focus and your participation. Again, you can go back to the video at another time. You can turn the sound off and, read it and practice it as many times as you need to. We'll see you later.